Good morning. Today is the 21st of September. We are in week what? Somebody tell me what week we're in. We are in week 5. That's right. And what's happening this week that's a big deal? Yeah, we have the final draft of our first essay due. Exactly. Okay. Um, so, all right, let's go ahead and take attendance. Charlie, are you here? Nikeria? Alan, good morning. How are you? I'm pretty good. All right. Alan is here. Jakaya, good morning. How are you? Good. Jakaya, I just saw your chat. Thanks for letting me know that. Courtney, are you here? Morgan? Good morning. How are you? Good. Jamisha? Nikayla, how are you? Corian? Not yet. Devin? Zakia? Assad? Good morning. How are you? Good, good, good. Bryce, how are you doing today? Awesome. Miss Portia, how are you doing today? Good. Monisha, good morning. How are you? Good, good, good. Thailandria, are you here? Good morning. How are you? Chantel, good morning. How are you? Good. Erin, how are you? Good, good. Octavia, how are you? Not yet. And Napoleon? All right. So we are working on our final draft of our research essay. So I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share and walk us through this week. We've got some resources here for us to look at. Hold on. Are you able to see my screen? Fantastic. Okay. So we have, no, this isn't even our class, y'all. 1 second. I gotta get on the right thing. I'm not sure why it's in a weird spot. And I don't want to share gradebook pictures with you. Hang on 1 second. Oh, it's doing it again. Blackboard is being weird. Courses. There's your course. All right, now I'll do the screen share. All right, now we are here in our class and you can all see Blackboard. All right, so we are in our weekly assignments and we are looking at week 5. And we are talking, we've watched this video on how to succeed in week 5. There's a link to Criterion editing software. I want to talk to you for a second about using Criterion effectively, okay? Criterion is a strange little program, and I really need you to watch that video, okay? I'm going to see if I can get us, if this will disappear for a second. It will not. Let's see. All right, I want to go to Criterion for a second. And show you a couple of things, hopefully with some student work. Okay, so we want to take a look. I want to take a look at, awesome. I'm going to open this class. I'm not sure which class it is, but I'm going to open this class. Okay. When I see somebody, and their names are blocked right now, when I see somebody with one attempt, I see somebody who knew they had to put it in Criterion, but didn't actually use Criterion. When I see a saved draft, I see somebody who hasn't even submitted yet and they're not done, okay? When I see attempt number 4 or attempt number 3 or attempt number 7, I'm giving that the thumbs up, but I'm gonna open it, okay? And so when I open it, I'm gonna see some things, all right? And what I see is that this person still has 9 mechanics errors, 2 usage errors, and 5 grammar errors to work on. Okay, I'm going to take a look at the usage errors. I'm going to go to the confused words. Now it highlights those. And indeed, she has chose it lead, but she's chosen L-E-A-D, which is the kind of lead in a pencil, right? Not the kind of lead that's the past tense of lead. L-E-D is the past tense of lead. And then she has said through these 2 art forms, and she needs the TWO for those. So this person hasn't finished, and it's not due yet, so this is fine. Right now, there's no judgment. But this person hasn't finished using Criterion effectively. If you've used Criterion effectively, you would actually get to a split screen where you can see these errors just like this. On one side, and then you can make the changes on the other side. And the video that's in Blackboard shows you how to do that, how to get to that split screen and make changes on one side. This video right here, and make changes on one side and see what you need to change on the other side. It also shows you how to copy and paste out of Criterion and into a Word document, so that you can use those changes that you've made in Criterion and have a better essay. So make sure you're using multiple submissions. Yes, can I get a thumbs up on that? If I see just one, you are not required to put it in Criterion. That's not the requirement. The requirement is to use Criterion to edit effectively. And those are 2 very different things. Putting it in Criterion doesn't help you at all, right? That's not what I'm requiring. I'm requiring you to use it to make your paper better. So I don't want to see 9 mechanics errors left. I saw somebody one time that said that they had 42 mechanics errors left. Now I want to look at one of ours for a second because, and I'm not, do I have y'all's permission? Not if I can look at one of y'all's, because there are some things with ours in particular that we need to look at. So I'm gonna go to our class and I'm gonna open somebody who's doing a good job, but theirs raises something that we need to think about. Okay, so I'm going to open this one. All right. And we got poetry theme analysis. Now I'm going to open up this one that's in attempt number 3. They've got a real good score. Not worried about that. But look at the mechanics. They've got a lot of mechanics errors. And hi, Tierica, I'm picking on you here. Okay. They're doing a real good job, but it says missing initial letter in a sentence. And we've got to look at these because I know exactly what's happening here. Okay. Can y'all see this? Can anybody tell me what's happening here? Right, but she's made a mistake, and Criterion is not wrong. She has ended her sentence here, and this is a lowercase letter. The thing is, the sentence isn't supposed to end here. It's supposed to end after your citation. She's got an extra period inside those quotation marks that she's not supposed to have. This sentence right here is supposed to end with this exclamation mark over here. So it's going to tell you you've got fragments and a sentence with no capital letter. And it's because this period here shouldn't be there. You only need this one over here. Okay, the other mistake she made here is that there's a period here and there's a capital letter in this poem that she's transcribing, and she didn't transcribe the capital letter correctly. Okay, so Criterion is actually, I'm going to stop the share so we can look at each other while I say this. Criterion's giving you correct information. There's something wrong there. It may not be accurately identifying what is wrong, but it's identifying that something's wrong. They put too much punctuation in there. It's supposed to say end quote, open citation, period, right? At the end of the citation. Your citation is part of your sentence, but it's not part of your quote. Questions about that or questions about using Criterion? Well, then you'll format it, and we're going to talk about formatting as well. Okay. All right. So, but yes. So we're going to edit in Criterion or there. I'm also going to tell you right up front, Criterion can't spell Reska and several other of our poets' names. County is probably going to be marked as wrong. Cullen might be marked as wrong. Proper nouns will be very often marked as wrong. Please don't ignore them. Look at the way you've spelled it each time it highlights it for you and check that you have spelled it consistently and correctly. I've seen people just dismiss that Criterion is telling you you've spelled Rethka wrong and then consistently put the O and the E in the wrong order, right? So you need to make sure that you're looking at it and letting Criterion is really good at worrying about things. It's not the best diagnostician, but it's very good at worrying about things for you. Okay. All right. Questions about using Criterion specifically, and then we'll go back to our screen share. Awesome. Screen share. All right. Let's go back to Blackboard here. All right. So please watch this video. It tells you how to get to the split screen. I think it even talks about, it may walk you through setting it up at the beginning. If it's walking you through setting it up and you've already set it up, please just fast forward through that part. All right, MLA format rules. We're going to go ahead and talk about those. Because we are using a lot of formatting, it's important for you to go ahead and use your MLA formatting rules and use a word processing program. And we're going to talk about how to get your word processing program to match with Blackboard. But right now, we're just going to talk about MLA format. I'm actually going to go ahead and change this so that it's more obvious that this is a student name. I'm going to just call it Jane Student. So if you're doing a header, your name is first, and then the class name and time, the title of your paper, which in this case is a poetry theme analysis, and then the date that it's due, and this would be 2020 something. I don't need this title. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to, but then skip a space between your header and the beginning of your essay. Notice I don't ask for my name on here. I don't really care about that. I know that you're mine. I'm not handing these off to a TA who needs to know which teacher they're grading for or something like that. So you don't need it in there. If you do decide to put my name in there, please make sure you take a moment to get it right. I love you. But I'm not Ms. Swanberg. I'm not Miss. I'm not Mrs. I'm not Ms. I am Dr. Swanberg. Yay, proud of that. It's Swanberg, not Swansberg, Swansonberger, Swinburne, Swanberry. There's been a lot of errors there. I expect y'all to correct me if I get your names wrong, and I will correct you if you get my name wrong. So just, I'm not requiring it, but Lord Almighty, if you put it in there, please get it right. All right. Let's talk about single spacing and double spacing. In a word processing program, you can single space and double space using this key called the line and paragraph spacing tool. Single space is 1.0, double space is 2.0. Okay, so you just select what you want to have single and double space. Please never try to double space by hitting the Enter key. If you are working in the Blackboard editor and you're typing in Blackboard, please remember it just can't double space. It'll have to be single spaced. And what you'll do, let's say you're working in Blackboard and you can't use any word processing program, yours will look like this. And I'll make this paragraph single spaced as well. And since you can't double space and you actually can't indent either, so yours will look like this, it's real important to put a physical white space between your paragraphs if you're using the Blackboard composition space. So in Blackboard, yours will look like this. Okay? Otherwise, it's going to look like this with a tab to indent your new paragraphs, and then you will choose double spacing. Questions about formatting? It tells you what font to use. It tells you Times New Roman 12-point font. Equivalent fonts are okay, but Times New Roman is the MLA standard. 12-point font is a very readable size for most people. Larger than that, and it makes it look like you're stretching with your formatting instead of your brain. Smaller than that, and it's smaller than many people can read easily, so we keep it at 12-point font. Use the preset margins in whatever word processing program you're using. They should be fine. You're just not trying to make really big margins so your paper just goes down the middle. All right, I'm going to stop the share and ask if you have questions about formatting the essay. Now, you might not be using Word. You might be using Pages because you have an Apple product. If you're working on Pages, I cannot open a Pages document from Blackboard. So you're going to have to do a save as. And it's real easy in the Apple computers. You just choose save as, and you can either choose to save it as a Word document or you can save it as a PDF. And either one of those formats should be fine. Okay. The same is true for working in a Google document, and I'm going to do a quick share here. We have, let me close this 1 second. We have a quick little video here if you're working in Google Docs for how to save your Google Doc as a Word document or as a PDF file. So if you're working in Google Docs, but you can't upload as a Google Doc, which you can't, I'll talk about that in a second, please watch this quick little video. It's going to walk you through how to do that. You just go to File, and then you go to Download instead of Save As. So you go to download and then choose to download it as a Word file or as a PDF. Okay. Questions about compatibility and what kinds of files are compatible with uploading here? Are you sure you don't have any questions about what kind of files you can upload and what you cannot upload? Can you give me a Google Doc link? Sometimes, I'm not going to gaslight you. Sometimes I can follow them, but about 8 out of 10 times I can't, or they tell me I don't have access to that document. So if you don't want the stress of me giving you a 1 on this assignment and asking you to try again and make sure I can have access to it, it would save you some stress to save it as a Word document or a PDF and upload it in that way. But I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes I can open your Google Docs links. Most of the time I can't. Every once in a while I can. I can't figure out the difference. And if I can't figure out the difference, I can't coach you how to do it correctly. So I don't see any difference between the files that I can't get to and the files that I can. And I'm not a programmer, so I can't tell you what the difference is. So my solution is to ask you to upload a Word document or a PDF. Okay, thumbs up on that? We understanding it? Okay. Let's look at this quiz together. Don't you love it when I go over the answers to the quizzes with you? All right. I'm going to make it a little bigger so we can see it together. This essay requires me to use multiple direct quotes from at least 3 poems. Is that true or false? Unmute somebody and tell me. That is true. How many direct quotes is the minimum? 3 or 4. I like Michaela's 4. But 3 is the right answer. I need at least 3, please. Essay requires a works cited list as its last page. True or false? Unmute and tell me. True. What should be in that works cited page? How many entries should it have? What would the other ones be if there are other ones? Yeah, if you quote Martin Luther King, you're going to have to provide a citation for that. If you quote a dictionary, you're going to have to provide a citation for that. If you quote biographical information about the author, you're going to have to provide a citation for that. Is any of that required or recommended? No, no. I'm asking you to do a close reading of the poem, and that means that the only thing you're required to know about or quote from are the poems. So please stick to those. All right. Should you be looking up other people's analyses of the poem? Absolutely not. If you cannot read this poem by yourself, please join me in a Zoom session and I will help you understand the poem. But if you are going to the internet for help understanding these poems, you are not reading at a college level, and that alone will flunk you. I love you. Don't plagiarize. All right. Question number 3, using Criterion to edit my essay is optional. True or false? That is false. So what I do when I go to grade these is in week 6, when I'm going into grade, the first thing I'll do is go into Criterion, and I'll make a list of who submitted in Criterion, how many attempts they had, and I'll make a note if anybody still has a lot of errors left. And then I go into the grade book. And if your name isn't on that Criterion list, I give you a 1 out of 100, and I tell you to please go use Criterion to edit before I'll grade your paper. Not ideal. You're going to be sitting there with an F for a while, and nobody likes to look at an F. All right, questions about that? All right, question number 4. This essay does not have a minimum word count requirement. True or false? That is false. What is the minimum word count? It was 750 and 101. Now it's 1,000. Ah, I know. That's tricky. Okay. This essay is about a theme, so I'm not required to state a strong thesis. True or false? False. Awesome. Can anybody tell me the difference between a theme and a thesis? Bryce, can you tell me the difference between a theme and a thesis? It's definitely in the introductory paragraph. What's different about a thesis than a theme? It is the main point you're trying to get across, and it is arguable. Somebody could disagree with it. No water is wet feces, please. That's a theme. If you're saying they all deal with racism and racism is hard, that's not gonna fly. It needs to be something we could argue about. Okay? All right. Good. The essay is required to be at least 5 paragraphs long, but it can be longer than that. True or false? True. If you were talking about the fish, for example, and it takes you 1 paragraph to talk about what's happening and another paragraph to talk about what's important in it, that's fine. It can be, if you're finding that one of your paragraphs is getting stupidly long, break it into 2 paragraphs. That's okay, right? This isn't the formulaic 5-paragraph essay. This is an exploration of these 3 poems. And if one of the poems merits 2 paragraphs, let it have 2 paragraphs. That's okay. All right. Question number 7. This essay can use any of the poems from the poetry unit. True or false? True. All right. Now, the instructions asked you to not use all 3 poems from one poet, right? So the instructions say, please don't have more than 2 poems by one poet. Can you have all 3 poems by different poets, Portia? Yes. So all 3 poems can be by different poets if you want to. That's totally fine. I'm just saying you can't do all 3 poems about one poet. You can do 2 by Langston Hughes and 1 by County Cullen. You can do 2 by County Cullen and 1 by Gwendolyn Brooks. That's totally fine. But I don't want all 3 by Langston Hughes or all 3 by Robert Frost. Or does that make sense? Are we good on that? Portia, you had asked a question about that, and I'm afraid I was so busy with my family over the weekend that I didn't give you a great answer. Do you feel like you have a good answer now? Fantastic. Okay. Oh no, well it was my daughter's black belt test this weekend, and we were just very, very busy. The test itself took all day Saturday. And then Sunday, of course, we had to do everything else we usually do on a weekend, like grocery shopping and cleaning the house, etc. So, what? No, what's that now? Yes, ma'am. It has to be at least 5 paragraphs, but it can be more than that. It can be 6 if you need it to be. So if one of your paragraphs is getting kind of long and you need to break it into 2 paragraphs, that's okay. Well, you tell that baby to just hush. All right. As if that'll work. All right. We haven't gone over number 8 yet. It says, I do not need to provide citations for dictionary definitions or information about the author if I use that in my essay. That's false. Anytime you're using knowledge you had to look up, you need to provide a citation. If you have to look at it while you write it, it's not yours. So put it in quotation marks and provide a citation for it in text and at the end. And tell me where it came from. I shouldn't see a dictionary definition without knowing what dictionary it came from, right? But are you required to use information about the author or dictionary definitions? No. But if you're using them, you must do it properly. Okay? All right. Yes, sir. Okay, let me show you that. I'm going to actually open a Word document real quick and show you how to deal with a dictionary definition. Okay, so let's get here. I'm going to open a new document. I'm going to make it nice and big. I'm going to move you guys back down to the bottom. I'm going to let Nikeria in the class. All right, so all right, now I'm going to quick get to the internet and find a definition for dolor. Definition of dolor and I got to spell Merriam-Webster correctly, is mental suffering or anguish. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to go back to my Word document. I'm going to make sure it's all in the same font, which should be Times New Roman. I'm going to make sure it's all the same size, which is 12. I'm going to end the quote. And then I cite it that way, definition 1. If you're using a downstream definition, in other words, like my husband and I are always doing this. He'll say a word means one thing and I'll say it means something else and we'll argue and then we'll look it up and mine will be definition number 1. And sure enough, his will be definition number 2, pretty much every time, right? So if he were quoting what he means, he would copy the second definition and then his citation would say def 2, okay? So this is how you work it if you need to quote the dictionary. Make sure it's spelled correctly. Actually, that should be hyphenated. So the word dolor, according to, and then name your dictionary. Maybe you're using dictionary.com. I don't care. But you got to tell me which dictionary it's coming from. You got to put the definition in quotation marks, and then the citation should tell me what definition number it is. If there's only one definition, that's definition 1. Is that? And then you go to Google, and you gotta love Google. And then you go, wait, hold on, let me get to a new tab. This covers up all my tabs, which is really hideous. How to cite a dictionary in MLA. And you look that up. And I wouldn't use Easy Bibs, it's not that great. I would use Citation Guide MLA 8th edition, Encyclopedias and Dictionaries, and it tells you how to do, not the author's last name, encyclopedia or dictionary, and then you're going to do right here. I'll get this, see. I'll get back in here, I'll put this here. And you wouldn't have an author for a dictionary, so it's gonna look like this, dolor. It's gonna look like this. And then that's gonna need to be italicized. And then it's going to be the update date would be, what's today? They update that every day. So it would be 21 SEP 2021. And then the website would be, hang on. You can see that I'm just using what I found on the internet here. And you're not going to do, there you go. And then the date accessed in the case of an online dictionary would be the same day that you looked at it. And again, make sure it is all in the same font and it is all in 12-point font. Yeah. Yep. The page number isn't in a citation for a poem, I don't think. Let's take a look. Hold on one second. Let's take a look at our handout, and then maybe you can point out what's missing when you're trying to look at it, and then I'll be able to answer your question better. Okay? Okay. All right, so let's look at our handout. That's in week 4, I believe. For our works cited list. Now remember, I'm still going to go in and look at those works cited lists in the discussion board. But let's take a look at that handout and you can tell me what's missing. All right, Portia, tell me what's missing. Can you see it better now? Okay, you need to have the author's name, the poetry title, the website title, the date the poem was posted, the publication medium, which is web, and the date you accessed it. What's missing in what you're looking at? Let's take a look at out then. We'll take a look in the course readings and we'll go to out and see what we need to find. I can't hear you. Can you speak a little louder? Oh, well, go through my link. I gave you links to places that would have the information that you need. All right, use my links, love. That'll help you. All right. That's a problem solved. If you're using my links, I try to link you to places that have the information that you need for the citations. If there is something missing, I'll definitely, and you've noted that it's missing in your discussion board, I'll definitely try to fill that in for you. But definitely please make sure that you're using the links from class. Okay, all right. I'm going to stop the share and check in with you here. What's tripping you up? What's giving you a hard time? What are you worried about this week? Okay, so I like to think of the conclusion as the big so what, right? Where you're working on trying to make sure your reader understands why it's important to read these poems, why it's important to see in them what you see. So that is the big push in that conclusion. So remember those steps of a concluding paragraph. The first thing we do is summarize and assess how all of our examples work together, right? So we're trying to go, okay, when we look at all these poems together, they show my thesis, right? This shows it this way, this shows it this way, this shows it this way. And so because you can see it in these three poems, this thesis must be true, right? So that gets you about halfway through, right? That gets you to about 5 sentences right there, okay? Then after that, you're trying to explain to your reader why they should care. I kind of sometimes imagine my audience as a student who doesn't want to do the reading, or kind of a petulant teenager who's like, I don't care. Why do I care? Right? And I kind of challenge myself with that question, why do I care? And I try to make sure that I give them a fair answer. So you're talking about hope and the lack thereof, or you're talking about hope and why it's important to hold on to it. What are we supposed to get out of this discussion of hope? What do you want your reader to take away from this discussion? Okay, spend a few sentences on that. Should we read more of these poets? Should we change the way we think about other people? What do you want to have happen? Right? Not that you need to become a student activist here, but what should your reader do or think differently now that they've learned about what you're teaching us about? Okay. Maybe even reflect on what it meant to you to read the poems. I mean, some of you have not read poems before. Reflect on what it was like. Take a couple of sentences to say, hey, I didn't know that poems could be this visceral, this painful. I didn't know poems could be this angry. I always thought of them as these weird little love poems. I thought poems are always, about love and happy feelings. And I had no idea that there were poems that were this angry, or there were poems that were this sarcastic, or there are poems that are trying to be funny, or whatever it is, right? Does that help at all? Okay, remember to have that essay jobs checklist in front of you, just to remind you to spend a couple of sentences on each of those jobs. If you spend a few sentences wrapping it up for each poem and then restating your thesis, that gets you about halfway there. And then the last 4 or 5 sentences are trying to explain to your reader why they should care. Okay. If you need to, think of your audience as a high school student who is about to start reading poetry and they haven't yet, and kind of imagine them as your audience. Does that help a little? Okay. Other things that you're struggling with. the 3 dots are there to replace something you have taken out of a quote. So if you're not starting at the beginning of their sentence or not starting at the beginning of their line, then you use the ... But if you're not taking anything out, if you're starting at the beginning of their line, then just put it in. If you're not taking anything out of the quote, you don't use the ... The ... indicates you took something out. Other questions? What you got for a thesis right now? I can't hear you. I don't mind, but I would be willing to bet it's not as bad as you think, number one. And number two, there's other people with ones in the same boat. And if you were brave enough to share it, we could all learn from that. But you can put it in the chat and I can suggest a way to improve it. You want to do it that way? All right, she's going to type it in the chat. Does anybody else want to workshop their thesis a little bit? That's what she's asking to do. She's saying, hey, can we workshop my thesis a little bit? Anybody else want to workshop their thesis? All right, we're going to wait for this. And then I'm not going to read what it is because she doesn't want to do that. But I'm going to talk to her about how we might be able to fix it. Questions about Criterion. Does everybody have Criterion? You're up and running with Criterion. Or are you going to the bookstore today? I would like you to try using Criterion before Thursday's class, so that if Criterion is giving you advice you don't understand, or you can't get to the split screen or something, you can ask about it on Thursday in class. Can you please try just one submission for Thursday just to see what it's like? You don't have to finish because I might give you feedback on your drafts that means you need a whole new paragraph, but all right. I'm gonna make that smaller so I can see it better. All right, other questions about the draft that we're working on this week? All right, if you are feeling confident about what you need to do for Thursday, you can go ahead and log out. I'm going to stop the recording.